Look at your hand for a second. Everything you've ever wanted, the respect, the peace of mind, that version of yourself that doesn't crumble when things get messy, it's all slipping right through your fingers. And the worst part? You're the one letting it happen. Most people are walking around like they're in a dream, reacting to every text, every insult, and every bad day like a leaf caught in a storm. They think they're tired because they work too hard. But that's a lie. They're tired because they're fighting a war inside their own heads, and they're losing every single day. We live in a world that is literally designed to keep you weak. It wants you distracted. It wants you offended. It wants you chasing likes and scrolling until your eyes burn, just so you don't have to face the silence of your own thoughts. We become a generation of people who are terrified of a little bit of friction. We want the prize without the fight. We want the warrior mindset we see in movie clips, but we fold the moment someone cuts us off in traffic or a boss gives us a bit of attitude. It's embarrassing. And deep down, in that quiet place you try to drown out with music or podcasts, you know it too. But what if I told you there's a way to shut it all off? Not by escaping to a mountain, but by building a fortress inside your own skull that no one, not your ex, not your bank account, and definitely not your own anxiety, can break into. There's a cheat code for life that hasn't changed in over 2,000 years. It's not about positive vibes or manifesting your dreams. It's about something much more aggressive. It's about becoming a person who is mentally untouchable. Imagine for a second that you're a pilot. You're at 30,000 feet and suddenly the engines fail. The alarms are screaming. The lights are flashing red, and everyone behind you is losing their minds. In that moment, do you want to be the guy crying about how unfair the situation is? Do you want to be the guy checking his phone to see if anyone else is having a bad flight? No. You want to be the one who looks at the chaos, takes a breath, and says, "Okay, what's the move?" That is what we're talking about today. We're going to break down the laws of the mind that the world's most powerful people have used to stay cool while everything around them was burning to the ground. This isn't self-help fluff. This is mental surgery. If you're looking for a pat on the back or you're doing great speech, you're in the wrong place. But if you're tired of feeling like a victim of your own emotions, if you're tired of being a spectator in your own life, then listen very closely. The first thing you have to understand is that your biggest problem isn't what's happening to you. It's the story you tell yourself about what's happening. We've been conditioned to think that if someone treats us badly, we have a right to be miserable. If we lose money, we have a right to be stressed. We think our emotions are a direct result of the world outside. But that's a trap. It's a cage with an open door that you refuse to walk out of. The ancient masters of this mindset had a secret. They realized that between what happens to you and how you react, there's a tiny, microscopic gap. And in that gap lives your entire future. If you can learn to own that gap, you become a king in a world of servants. You stop being a puppet that dances every time the world pulls a string. Think about the last time you got genuinely angry. Maybe it was a comment online or a friend who flaked on you. In that moment, you gave that person a remote control to your brain. You let them decide how you were going to feel for the next hour, or maybe the whole day. You handed over your power for free. Why? Because you haven't learned the first law of being unbreakable. You haven't learned that your mind is the only thing on this entire planet that you actually own. Everything else, your car, your reputation, even your health, can be taken away in a heartbeat. But your ability to choose your next thought, that's yours. And it's time you started defending it like your life depends on it. Because, honestly, it does. The first law is simple, but it's a pill most people refuse to swallow. Stop fighting the wind. Think about it. If you're outside and a storm starts, do you stand there screaming at the clouds? Do you get offended that the rain is getting your shoes wet? Of course not. That'd be insane. You either grab an umbrella or you walk inside. You accept the weather because you know your opinion of the rain doesn't change the rain. Yet, we do this with our lives every single day. We get stuck in traffic, and we let our blood pressure spike, like it's going to make the cars move faster. We dwell on a mistake we made 3 years ago, like we can somehow travel back in time and fix it if we just feel guilty enough. We are constantly trying to edit reality in real time, and it is freaking exhausting. The masters of the mind call this the dichotomy of control, but let's just call it a circle of power. Imagine drawing a circle on the ground around your feet. Everything inside that circle, your thoughts, your intentions, your effort, and how you treat people, is yours. You own it 100%. Everything outside that circle, the economy, the weather, what your neighbors think of you, the results of your hard work, is not yours. When you spend your energy worrying about what's outside that circle, you are literally throwing your life away. You're gambling with your happiness. You're giving your peace of mind to a world that doesn't care about you. The moment you shift all your focus to what's inside the circle, something magical happens. You become dangerous. Why? Because you can't be touched. If the world takes your money, you say, "That was outside my circle. My character is still intact." If someone lies about you, you say, "Their words are outside my circle. My integrity is inside." This isn't about being a robot. It's about being a sniper. A sniper doesn't get mad at the wind. They adjust for it. They stay focused on the target. Most people are spraying bullets at the sky, wondering why they aren't hitting anything. They're reacting to the noise. They're distracted by the shadows. Let's get real for a second. Look at your problems right now. How many of them are actually things you can change this very second? Probably about 10%. The other 90% is just noise you're choosing to amplify. You're turned up the volume on a radio station that's nothing but static, and then you're complaining that you have a headache. Turn the dial. This leads us to a truth that hurts, but it'll set you free if you let it. You are suffering more in your imagination than you ever will in reality. We play out these worst-case scenarios in our heads over and over. We rehearse conversations that will never happen. We feel the sting of a breakup before it even occurs. We are literally torturing ourselves for no reason. The secret to being mentally unbreakable is realizing that now is the only place where you have any power. The past is a graveyard. Stop digging in it. The future is a ghost. Stop chasing it. You are right here in this moment, and in this moment, you are okay. You can handle this breath. You can handle this step. Think about a professional athlete. If a quarterback throws an interception, and he spends the next 3 plays thinking about how stupid he looked, he's going to throw another one. He has to have a short memory. He has to reset. You need a short memory for your failures and a long memory for your purpose. The world wants you to stay in that loop of regret and anxiety because a person in that loop is easy to sell to. They're easy to control. They're looking for a quick fix, a pill, or a new gadget to make the bad feeling go away. But the bad feeling isn't coming from the world. It's coming from the fact that you've abandoned your post. You left your circle of power and you're wandering around in the dark, wondering why you feel lost. It's time to come back home. It's time to realize that you are the architect of your own internal hell, which means you're also the only one who can tear it down and build something better. You don't need permission to be at peace. You don't need the world to be fair for you to be strong. In fact, the more unfair the world is, the more opportunities you have to prove just how unbreakable you really are. Here is the next law. If the first law was about drawing a line in the sand, the second law is about what you do when the enemy crosses it. Most people think that being strong means having no emotions. They think a Stoic is basically a stone statue that doesn't feel pain. That's a total lie. The real masters don't lack emotion, they lack reaction. There is a massive difference between feeling a spark and letting the whole house burn down. When someone insults you, you feel that heat in your chest, right? That's human. That's the spark. But the moment you start rehearsing a comeback, or you get in your feelings about why they said it, you're pouring gasoline on that spark. You're choosing to burn. Think of your mind like a high-end luxury hotel. You're the owner. Now, people are going to walk through the lobby. Some are great guests. Others are loud, messy, and try to break the furniture. If you try to physically tackle every bad guest that walked through the door, you'd spend your whole life fighting in the lobby. Your hotel would be a wreck. Instead, you just watch them pass through. You don't give them a room. You don't give them a key. You let them exist, and then you let them leave. The law is this. Don't give your thoughts a permanent room in your head, unless they're paying rent. If a thought doesn't make you stronger, wiser, or more effective, It's a squatter. Kick it out. We become addicted to our own drama. We love to vent. We love to talk about how we've been wronged. But every time you complain, you're just reinforcing your own weakness. You're telling your brain, I am a victim. I have no power here. You're literally training yourself to be a loser. The ancient warriors had a phrase, amor fati. It means love your fate. Not just tolerate it. Not just deal with it. Love it. This is the ultimate mindset shift. It's taking the worst thing that happens to you and saying, thank you. This is exactly what I needed to grow. Imagine you're training for a marathon and it starts pouring rain. The average person says, great, now I can't run. My day is ruined. The unbreakable person says, perfect, now I get to practice running in the mud. This is going to make me tougher than everyone else who stayed inside. You take the obstacle and you turn it into fuel. You're like a fire that gets bigger when the wind blows on it. Most people light a candle, one little breeze, and they're out. If you want to stay lit in the middle of a hurricane, you have to stop looking for safety. Safety is an illusion. The only real security you have is your ability to handle whatever life throws at you. If you're always praying for an easy life, you're praying for weakness. You should be praying for the strength to endure a hard one. Think about the most impressive person you know. I guarantee they didn't get that way by having everything go right. They got that way because they got dragged through the dirt and they decided to like the taste. They realized that the bad things in life are actually just weight in the gym of the soul. If you don't lift the weight, you don't get the muscle. It's that simple. So, the next time something goes wrong, you lose your job, your car breaks down, your partner walks out, I want you to take a second and just smile. It sounds crazy, I know, but that smile is you reclaiming your power. It's you telling the universe, is that all you've got? Because I can do this all day. When you stop fearing bad events, you become a ghost. You can't be hunted. You can't be trapped. You're free to move through the world with a level of confidence that looks like arrogance to people who are still slaves to their circumstances. But it's not arrogance. It's just a quiet realization that nothing outside of you can actually hurt you without your permission. Most people are waiting for the world to give them a reason to be happy. They're waiting for the perfect job, the perfect soulmate, the perfect bank balance. They're putting their life on hold. But the unbreakable person knows that happiness is a choice you make before you even get out of bed. It's a discipline. It's a hard law you set for yourself. Now, we have to talk about the most dangerous drug in the world. It's not something you buy on a street corner. It's free. It's everywhere, and you're probably using right now. It's called validation. Most people are living their lives for a crowd that isn't even watching. They're buying things they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't even like. We become a society of performers. We check our phones to see how many people liked our breakfast, our workout, or our new car. But here's the brutal truth. If your self-worth depends on the opinion of others, you are a slave. You've given everyone else the remote control to your happiness. The third law is kill your need for approval. Imagine you're a lion. Does a lion turn around and bark back when a stray dog yaps at him? No, he doesn't even hear it. He's focused on the hunt. He knows what he is. But most of us are acting like lapdogs, constantly looking up to see if we're being good boys or good girls. We're terrified of being canceled, terrified of being judged, terrified of someone thinking we're weird. The Stoics had a practice called voluntary discomfort. They would literally walk through the streets in rags or eat scraps of food just to prove to themselves that even if they lost everything, even if everyone laughed at them, they would still be okay. They realized that the shame we feel is just a ghost. It has no teeth. It can't actually bite you unless you let it. Think about the people you're trying to impress. Really look at them. Are they perfect? Are they happy? Half of them are just as insecure as you are, and the other half are so busy worrying about their own lives that they haven't thought about you once today. You are stressing out over the opinions of people who are just as lost as you feel. It's like a blind man asking another blind man for directions. When you stop caring about being seen as successful and start actually being successful, your whole vibe changes. People can smell the desperation on a person who needs approval. It's weak. It's clingy. But when you move with the quiet confidence of someone who only answers to their own internal code, that's magnetic. That's how leaders are born. The secret to being mentally unbreakable is having a personal constitution, a set of rules for yourself that you never break, no matter what. If your rule is I don't complain, then you don't complain, even if you're standing in a downpour. If your rule is I tell the truth, then you tell the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. When you have your own code, you don't need the world to clap for you. You clap for yourself. You go to bed at night and you say, I kept my word to myself today. That feeling? That's better than 1,000,000 likes on a screen. That's real power. We live in a look-at-me culture, but the real giants are the ones who are doing in the dark. They're the ones working on themselves when no one is watching. They're the ones building their minds while everyone else is chasing the next trend. Ask yourself, if social media disappeared tomorrow and no one could ever see what you were doing again, would you still be doing it? Would you still work out? Would you still try to be a good person? If the answer is no, then you're not living your life. You're playing a character in a movie for an audience that doesn't exist. It's time to stop being an actor and start being the director. It's time to stop asking for permission to be who you are. The moment you stop caring what people think is the moment you finally become free. And a free person is the most dangerous person in the room because they can't be bought, they can't be bullied, and they can't be broken. The fourth law is going to sting, but it's the only way to grow. Stop treating your life like a dress rehearsal. Most people have this waiting room mentality. They think, once I get that promotion, then I'll be happy. Or once I find the right person, then I'll start taking care of myself. They're waiting for some magical future version of their life to begin, while the actual life they're living is leaking away. There's an old saying that the average person dies at 25, but isn't buried until they're 75. They just stop. They settle into a routine of comfort and good enough, and they let their fire go out. They think they have forever. But the truth is, you're standing on a trapdoor that could swing open at any second. The masters had a phrase for this too, memento mori. Remember that you will die. Now that sounds dark, but it's actually the ultimate life hack. If you knew for a fact that you only had 24 hours left to live, would you spend even 1 second arguing with a stranger on the internet? Would you spend it worrying about a mistake you made in high school? No, you'd be incredibly focused. You'd be present. You'd be real. The problem is, we treat our time like it's an infinite resource, but it's the only thing we have that we can never get more of. You can lose all your money and make it back. You can lose your reputation and rebuild it. But every minute you spend in a state of meh, every hour you spend being a victim of your own laziness, is a minute you've lit on fire and thrown into the ocean. It's gone. Being mentally unbreakable means living with a sense of urgency. Not the kind of urgency that makes you stressed and frantic, but the kind that makes you intentional. It's about realizing that someday is a lie. Someday is where dreams go to rot. You only have today. You only have the specific moment. Imagine you're a soldier in a foxhole. The enemy is closing in. In that moment, your problems disappear. You don't care about your ego. You don't care about your insecurities. You only care about the mission. That's the level of clarity you need to bring to your everyday life. You need to treat your goals, your mental health, and your character like a mission that's under fire. Most people are too soft on themselves. They give themselves a pass every time they feel a little tired or a little uninspired. But discipline isn't about doing things when you feel like it. Any coward can work hard when they're motivated. Discipline is doing the work when you hate it. It's keeping the promise you made to yourself when the vibe is gone. When you live with death on your shoulder, you don't have time for nonsense. You become a no machine. No to distractions. No to fake friends. No to low-level drama. You start to value your peace of mind like it's pure gold because you realize how rare it actually is. Think about it. Most of the things you're stressed about right now won't even matter in 5 years. Half of them won't matter in 5 months. So why are you letting them ruin your 5 minutes? If it's not going to matter on your deathbed, don't give a front row seat in your brain today. This law is about radical responsibility. It's about looking in the mirror and realizing that while you might not be responsible for everything that happened to you in the past, you are 100% responsible for how you handle it right now. Stop waiting for an apology from people who aren't sorry. Stop waiting for the perfect time to start that project or change that habit. The perfect time is a ghost. It doesn't exist. There is only now, and now is messy, it's loud, and it's complicated. But it's all you've got. The unbreakable person takes the mess and builds a monument out of it. They don't wait for the storm to pass. They learn how to dance in the rain, and they do it with a smile, because they know that every second they spend being strong is a second they've truly lived. The fifth law is the one that separates the leaders from the followers, and it's this: stop seeking comfort and start seeking friction. We've been lied to. We've been told that the goal of life is to retire on a beach, sip a drink, and have zero stress. But have you ever noticed that the people with the most comfortable lives are often the most miserable? They're fragile. They're bored. They're one minor inconvenience away from a total meltdown. Your brain is like a muscle. If you don't put it under tension, it withers away. If you never face anything difficult, you become a glass person, someone who looks shiny on the outside, but shatters the moment life taps them with a hammer. Being mentally unbreakable requires you to go looking for the hammer. Think about a diamond. A diamond isn't just a pretty rock. It's a piece of coal that handled a massive amount of pressure without quitting. It stayed in the dark, under the weight of the world, and it didn't crack. Most people are trying to avoid the pressure. They want the easy way. They want the shortcut. But the shortcut is a trap. The long way, the hard way, the way through the fire, that's where the power is. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, which is just a fancy way of saying expect the worst. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't that just being a pessimist? No. A pessimist thinks the world is out to get them and gives up. An unbreakable person knows the world might throw a punch, so they spend their time learning how to take it. They mentally rehearse the struggle. They think, what if I lose my job tomorrow? What if I get sick? What if people turn against me? They don't do this to be depressed. They do it so that when the bad thing actually happens, they aren't surprised. They've already lived through it 1,000 times in their mind. While everyone else is panicking and running in circles, the unbreakable person is already 3 steps ahead because they prepared for the chaos. You have to stop being afraid of pain. Pain is just information. It's your body or your mind telling you where your limits are. And once you know where your limits are, you can push them back. If you're scared of public speaking, that's exactly what you need to do. If you're scared of having a difficult conversation, that's the conversation you need to have today. You need to treat your fears like a compass. Wherever the needle is pointing, that's the direction you need to walk. We become a society that is addicted to softness. We want everything delivered in 10 minutes. We want air conditioning, padded seats, and constant entertainment. But all that comfort is just a slow-acting poison. It numbs you. It makes you forget what you're actually capable of. I want you to try something. For the next week, lean into things that suck. Take the cold shower. Wake up an hour earlier. Eat the meal that's good for you instead of the one that tastes like a dopamine hit. Not because you're a martyr, but because you're a scientist. You're testing your own limits. You're proving to yourself that your feelings don't get to vote on what you do. When you can do things you hate without complaining, you win. You officially have a superpower. Think about it. If you can stay disciplined when you're tired, hungry, and annoyed, what can the world possibly do to stop you? Nothing. You become a force of nature. Most people are slaves to their moods. If they feel good, they work. If they feel bad, they quit. But you're going to be the person who works regardless of the mood. You're going to be the person who shows up when it's raining, when it's cold, and when no one is cheering for you. Because you don't do it for the applause. You do it for the person you see in the mirror. You do it because you've realized that the only thing more painful than discipline is the rot of regret. The 6th and 7th laws bring us to the final showdown. The 6th law is about your circle. We like to think we're independent, but the truth is, you are a sponge. If you hang out with 5 people who complain about the world, who blame the government for their problems, and who spend their weekends numbing their brains with cheap thrills, you are going to be the 6th. You can't build a fortress in a swamp. Being mentally unbreakable means you have to be a ruthless gatekeeper of your environment. This isn't just about people. It's about the information you consume. If you start your morning by checking the news or scrolling through a feed of people bragging about their fake lives, you've already lost a day. You've let the garbage into your lobby before you've even had your coffee. You need to curate your life like a museum, not a junkyard. And that brings us to the final, most brutal law of all, the law of total ownership. This is the one that ties everything together. Look at your life right now, your health, your bank account, your relationships, your stress levels. It is very easy to point at your parents, your boss, your ex, or the economy and say, "That's why I am where I am." And you might even be right. But being right doesn't make you strong. The moment you blame something outside of yourself, you are giving away your power. You are saying, "I am a victim of this thing, and until this thing changes, I can't be better." That is a death sentence for your potential. The unbreakable person takes 100% responsibility for things that aren't even their fault. Why? Because responsibility is the same thing as power. If it's your fault, it means you have the power to fix it. If it's their fault, you're just a spectator waiting for a miracle. Stop waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle. You are the result of thousands of years of survivors, warriors, and thinkers who refuse to quit. You have their DNA. You have their potential. But you've been letting it go to waste because you've been playing small. You've been choosing the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is what makes rivers crooked, and it's what makes men weak. It's time to choose a path of most resistance. It's time to stop talking about what a good person should be and actually be one. It's time to stop watching videos about being unbreakable and start making the choices that actually make you that way. Go back to that image of your hands. They aren't empty anymore. Inside them, you have the tools to rebuild your entire reality. You have the circle of power. You have the personal constitution. You have the short memory. You have everything you need to be the person you've always looked up to. The world is going to keep being chaotic. People are going to keep being difficult. Life is going to keep throwing punches. That is never going to change. But you have changed. You've realized that the storm isn't the problem. It's your reaction to the storm. You realize that your mind is the only true kingdom you will ever rule. So, walk out into the world today with your head held high, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you are no longer a slave to anyone else. You are the master of your own soul. You are the captain of your own ship. And from this moment on, you are officially untouchable. If this message hit home, and you're ready to stop being a spectator in your own life, make sure to like this video and share it with someone who needs a wake-up call. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel Stoic Origin. We're here to help you build that mental fortress every single week. Now, get out there and do the work. The world is waiting to see what an unbreakable person looks like.